That's a really interesting question. So coming from the background of being a musician, or sometimes I describe myself as half a musician, where I used to produce some music, I've composed some music, I've written, arranged some music for TV ads and whatnot, and jingles here and there. And I loved it with all my heart. But then, as soon as I started jumping into sound, into live sound, in my head, and this is similar to many of the young technicians and engineers that I meet, that they think live sound engineering is about the mixer or starts with the mixer, which isn't true. It's not true. The mixer is the last piece of the puzzle. The mixer starts where the fundamentals of system engineering ends. So genuinely, live sound, I think, in my opinion, is the perfect match between science and creativity. And it took me years and years of working in the industry, mixing shows, maybe doing a good job sometimes, to eventually understand that exposure to the system side of things came halfway throughout my career, where I've done so many jobs as a mixing engineer. But then I've dealt with so many badly designed and badly implemented systems that I started to question it. Why? Because I never thought about it that much, right? It's speakers, positions in a place that makes sense. You see them left and right, and some fills here, some fills there, and you go and work, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, even though you're mixing the exact same band or the exact same content, the exact same genre. But sometimes on certain systems, if you may, it just was so bad. And I started digging. I want to understand why, and I figured out more. And I got the opportunity then at that point is when I moved to Dubai. I was hired by a company called Eclipse, and they just purchased J Series, which was, I think, the first in the Middle East region. So I joined that company, and that opened my eyes completely to system engineering, where I saw bigger productions and I saw the sub-disciplines within the audio discipline. And I started understanding and learning more and more about what makes a good sound or a bad sound. And that was the beginning where a light bulb went like I want to know more, I want to learn more, I want to know more. And little by little, and this is not to take anything away from mixing, it's such an important job. Good mixer cannot save or salvage a bad system. That's the truth of it. And that's when I started diving into science of it, the physics behind it. I started learning, I started training, I started asking people, experienced people who've been doing it for so long. Mistakes over and over again, asking questions over and over again, experimenting. I got super obsessed, and then up until eventually I had some studies, the fundamentals of physics, which honestly, yes, it is complex, it's not that simple, but equally, it's intuitive. I found it to be very intuitive. And my obsession, which as a half a musician turned into a mixing engineer, into being a system engineer, turned completely. And the second half of my career was purely focused on system engineering and system design, which eventually led me to my most recent position before I joined DNB with creative technology as their head of audio, where I was offered the opportunity to build their audio department, start an audio department from absolute scratch. My DNB journey. Okay, very interesting, because in all truth, DNB has always played, in actual fact, DNB has played a large part of my career as an audio engineer, actually, or as an audio professional, because early on in my career, and that's the early 2000s, I want to say around 2004, first mentor back then took me to a show with him, and he was using the DNB, and that's my first exposure to DNB. He was using, God knows what boxes now, I think it was C6s and E9s, I can't remember the subs, and he had quite a sizable band on stage, and the venue was moderately big. And I was used at that point, up until that point, my few years in the industry, I'm used to massive boxes, big mountains of PA, whatever brand that may be. And I looked at them like, are you sure this is gonna be enough? And he smirked at me like, he went and played a track, and immediately I'm like how can that much precision come out of a box? And I'm talking the early 2000s, like a little bit over 20 years ago, actually. I'm fortunate enough, and again, I'm blessed and lucky and fortunate enough to have met the right people at the right time. Ever since that day, to this day, I have never worked with any other product than DMB, be it by pure chance, by pure luck. But from that moment forward, in the part of my career when I was in Lebanon, I just worked with the Lebanese DMB distributor back then as a freelance. Used to go and deliver their shows, mix their shows. And we kept on growing, and we've done the utmost coolest things. It's such a musically and culturally rich country. So we used to make the best sounding shows ever with like so much creativity, and the music scene is so far and wide. From there, around 2013 or 14, when a company in Dubai purchased J-Series, which was the first in the region, I think they've reached out to DMB and asked them about recommendations of people in the region who know DMB. So that company reached out to me, and we started talking for months and months, and I went and visited, and I freelanced for them. I've done a little show there. Sorry, I've done a month-long thingy. The team was amazing, one of the best teams I've ever worked with. We are still friends to this day. And then after that freelance stint, I was offered a full-time job, and that's when I moved to Dubai full-time. And from there, eventually I reached a point where a company called Creative Technology, a Middle East branch, reached out to me. And predominantly in the Middle East, they were a video company, and they wanted to start an audio department. And they reached out to me, and they asked me if I'd like to build an audio department for them, which I obviously said yes to, a big yes. So I joined, and we started building and growing that department, and obviously I went with DMB because it's always my choice, and it's been a massive part of my journey. And we've built one of the most prominent audio departments in the Middle East together with the team. The achievements are immense. And then a few years down the line with Creative Technology, that's when DMB Middle East was kind of created of given birth. DMB exists via a distributor, and us then users and users. And we've always felt involved because we've always been talking to the people in GB, the people in HQ. But this was the first that we had actual presence of DMB in the region. That was a few years back. And then immediately, obviously, we talked. I was DMB all my life. They knew of me, I knew of them. And one thing led to another. The right time came, and there was space and room for me to join. I was ready, DMB Middle East was ready, and 5 months ago I joined the EAS team, which if you look at it, it makes sense. I've done an interview with a good friend of mine when I everyone saying like, yeah, and no one was surprised. Everyone saw it coming. So it was kind of meant to happen. I think I'm a very lucky and blessed person because I think I have met the right people at the right time, always. The right people. I came across the right people at the right time, and everything felt organic and felt in place. Wish I, no truth, known the system side of things earlier in my career, possibly would have shaped things a bit differently, but I have zero regrets because I'm exceptionally passionate about what I do, and I look at every bit of my career fondly. I think about it like, I'm like, oh my God, I remember that, I love that. Because you need to do mistakes. If you don't do mistakes, you won't learn, you won't progress. Doing mistakes, go do it, fail, try again, do it, fail, try it again, understand why, then do the next thing, then build on it, then form a complete picture. For my generation, and when I started, again, mixer, audio engineering is a mixer. So I wish I was introduced to the other side, which is the core, the fundamental side of it, rather than the creative side of things. Absolutely. I cannot stress enough. Stay curious, question everything, ask away. Every day is a school day. I still learn things every day, on daily basis, I promise you. With every little project that comes through, with everything that I do. Training, for example, I've learned as much as everyone else. You learn something new every day, and you add to your existing knowledge, and you connect more dots, and you keep connecting more dots, and growing base and that fundamentals. So be curious, be open, and don't be afraid to fail. I'm Wissam Shaheen. Thank you so much for having me.